back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Vandy and I'm a Chilean international student at the Harvard class of 2025. And today I will be talking to you about 10 things I wish I knew before applying to college in the US. So let's start the video. Okay, so number one on my list is your teachers will have to create a Common App account to send your letters of recommendation. I remember this came as a great shocker to me because for some reason I thought they could send them via email or I could send them myself, and it turns out it was not the case. So when I didn't see the option on the platform, I was like, I need to do more research about this, and that's how I found out that they had to create their own accounts and send some of the information they are asked through that same account. If you come from a country like mine where application to the US is not that common, you should tell your teachers in advance that they will have to create an account, and I'd also suggest that if your recommender doesn't speak English, you could translate the website for them once they've made their account so they can actually understand and know how to write the questions. Number two, you won't need different letters of recommendation for each college. This was a great relief to me because I thought I would have to ask my teachers to write different letters of recommendation for each college I was applying to, which were around 15. And it turns out that the Common App lets you assign the teachers who wrote you letters of recommendation to any university you have on your list. And also you can assign them to more colleges after they've submitted the letters of recommendation as well as before. So it's a great thing to have in mind when you're asking for letters of recommendation. Number three on my list is that there are colleges that will only use their own application portal. Some examples of this are MIT and the University of California/UC colleges. That information will always be on the college website, and so I don't think I'll need to explain any further. Number four on my list is that in the US there are many application plans, and I'm going to explain them to you now. First, we have a regular decision. You apply to the college via the normal application route, and typically these applications are due in January. It is non-binding, which means that if you get accepted into that college, you are not required to go, and you do not have to notify the university that you will decline their offer. You simply just don't accept it. Then we have early action. The same rules that apply to regular decision apply to early action. You just apply earlier. Applications typically due in November, and it is non-binding also. And a school may defer you to regular decision if you apply through early action, and you can supply additional information to attain admission. For instance, updated test scores, higher senior year grades, etc. Then we have early decision. If applying early decision, apply to your first choice school. And why is that? Because early decision is actually binding, meaning that if you get into your early decision school, you're required to enroll and go to the school and withdraw your application to any other colleges you applied to. I'd recommend to be very careful when choosing to do early decision because you also may only apply to one university via early decision. Then we have early decision 2. Early decision 2 is a second round of ED. A student may apply to their first choice school via ED and their second choice school via ED2. Applications typically due in January. It is binding. If you apply to one school via ED and are rejected, the binding agreement ends. Then you apply to another school via ED2, engaging in a new binding application. Unless there is overlap, this does not violate early decision rules. Check the early decision restrictions and deadlines of both schools to be sure you are not in violation. Then we have restrictive early action, which is actually the one I used to apply to Harvard. It is similar to early action, but schools tack on a few additional rules at their own discretion. In Harvard's case, you could not apply to any other private schools in their early rounds. Restrictive early action is also non-binding. Number 5 on my list is to always look for exceptions that are specific to international students. And I say this because I made the huge mistake of not reading a website well And so I applied to a college where they didn't give fee waivers to international students. And so after I applied, I got a notification that I had to pay $75 to that university, and it was not nice. Number 6 on my list is that most colleges in the US are need aware for international students, which means, and I quote, that an applicant's financial need may be taken into consideration as one of many factors, including academic achievement, extracurricular endeavors, and community context during the admissions process. In fact, there are only 6 colleges in the US that are need-blind and offer full need-based financial aid for international students. These colleges are Amherst, Dartmouth, Harvard, MIT, Princeton, and Yale. The explanation for this and why other colleges are need aware is because they need to budget their financial aid. If all these other colleges were in fact need blind, the percentage of students who need aid would go up to the point where they wouldn't be able to be as generous with their financial aid, which in my opinion sort of destroys the whole idea of financial aid itself. Number 7 on my list is that you should send your CSS profile ahead of your application. This is not mandatory at all, but I'm saying this because when I was applying to Harvard, I sent in my application first, about 5 days I think, before the deadline. And then I sent my financial information through the CSS profile, which takes 2 to 3 days to process. And then I had to send my financial documents through iDoc. And it was truly a headache. I didn't know that you could send your financial information before you sent in your application, but well, now you know. Number 8 will also be about financial aid, and I'm telling you, if your parents are not organized with their finances, tell them to start now. Another very stressful factor to me during the application process that could have been easily avoided was to reunite all the financial documents I needed. In Chile at least, almost every document is on paper. They're actually already working on legislation to change that by 2023. But in my case, I had to find and then go through all these folders to find the information I needed. So if you're in your sophomore or junior year in high school, you can save yourself completely from this nightmare by telling your parents to get organized by now. If you're in your senior year, it will be more complicated but not impossible. You should just tell your parents to reunite all their documents and put them together in a place where you know they will be there, and so you don't have to worry about it. And one less thing to worry about during this application process, trust me, you will be thankful for that because time just becomes non-existent. Number 9, and we're getting real here, you need to work on your essay writing. In my case, we were barely told how to write an essay. They didn't even teach us how to do an outline. And the biggest problem, in my opinion, is that we were totally oblivious to the fact that we couldn't write to save our lives. And so I had the great luck to have a teacher who was not Chilean, and she knew how international education worked, and she told me to work on my essay writing. And one trick that was very useful to me when writing the essays, and that I'm going to share with you guys now, was to write how you would normally speak, then edit, and then read everything out loud over and over again, then highlight the parts that you didn't like, change them, and repeat steps 2 and 3 until you feel comfortable and totally satisfied with your essay. And number 10 on my list is that there are so many options in the US. Do not apply to only the well-known or selective universities. I know this sounds weird coming from somebody who chose Harvard as their college, but hear me out. I had many other options that were way less selective on my list, and for a while I was also considering community college. So I think if your dream is to study abroad or to study in the US specifically, don't be close-minded. Research all the choices and the opportunities, because if you don't end up getting into an Ivy League or any selective colleges, you're still bettering yourself, you're still getting an education, and that's one of the most important things in life, in my opinion, because it's something they can never take away from you. And in the end, not having that pressure on will be so worth it. Okay guys, that was all for today's video. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, because next week part 2 is coming out where I will be talking about the more psychological mental health part of applying to college in the US as an international student. You can also leave in the comments what you would like to see after that, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!